greetings.
Hello.
My greetings. Well met.
Greetings, traveler. Greetings, friend.
The pleasure is mine.
Hello and welcome to episode 2. I did not tweet this episode is going live. Hold on a second.
Very important. Got to keep up with the
With the social media. It's this might be the first time in history that I have not tweeted enough about something.
I was
don't
going
know.
to say.
Don't know if that's ever happened before.
Quite the rarity.
Yes.
And of all people, for me to remind you.
Yes. That is also a rare thing. Did you remind me? You did remind me. Yeah, I don't... Yeah, there we go. There is a tweet for you to retweet. I just made
What
it.
kind of day is it she reminded you like 20 seconds ago and you already forgot?
It's opposite day,
No, I wasn't
apparently.
looking in Discord. That's I have to. I was capturing. All right, none of this happened. This is all getting stricken from the record. Live listeners and patrons are sworn to secrecy. Don't tell anybody. Welcome to episode 269 of Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Thursday, December 3rd, in the evening. Joining from Gadget in New York, it's me, Ridiculous Hat. From Kerosene, California, his Bacchus.
Hello.
From Undercity, Pennsylvania, his Edelweiss.
Hello.
And from the world at large, it's you, listener. Wherever you are, we're glad you're here. I'd like to find out how you can support us, receive rewards in return, head to patreon.com/CoinConcede. You can also support us by leaving an iTunes review. Totally free and really helps other people find the show. Big thanks to Dusharmo, Brian S., and Zenshi, our newest patrons. Welcome, thank you, you're great. You look fantastic today, we really appreciate it. Also, reminder, say this every so often, during the whole pandemic thing, if you're taking a break from the game, or you just need to cut back on spending or whatever, shoot me a DM or on Twitter or any of the hosts, and we are glad to continue your patron benefits, even if you need to take a minute from that for whatever reason. We are glad to provide the raw audio. We're glad to continue coaching sessions. If you are currently a patron, need to step back for a minute. Totally understood. World being what it is. All right. How's life in ladder? Bodicus, you wrote something. Battlegrounds?
I did.
Battlegrounds?
I've in a bit of downtime right before a big Path of Exile League starts this week that lasts for a week. I have been kind of playing Battlegrounds while I've been eating because it requires less engaged action, I guess. More thinking, but less engaged action. And I'm to the point now where when I started playing Battlegrounds again, I didn't understand why I was losing. And now I'm to the point where I understand that I'm losing and that I'm doing something wrong. I just have no idea what it is yet. So we're in the next stage before we get to the stage of like, okay, I can start figuring out what it is I need to be improving. But I'm at least to the point where I'm not just like, I have no idea what I'm doing and what I'm doing wrong, but I'm losing. And now it's like, okay, I'm losing, and I realize other people are doing stuff that I'm not doing. I just have to figure out what that is.
Okay. So we've got a little. We're past the point where it's not the first day of school where you don't know where your classes are. Now you know where they are, but you don't understand biology. But you got the book. You just got to read it. This is a labored metaphor.
I don't get it, but we'll go with it.
But it's like the complete confusion, the lack of awareness of what even is supposed to be happening versus knowing that what's supposed to be happening and then just having to figure out how you get there.
It's more like I figured out how to get to school, whereas before I just went to the wrong school.
And they were like, "Sir, this is a Chuck E. Cheese."
And I was like, oh. And so I've gone to the right school, I just don't know how to get to class. And so...
Okay.
I still get nightmares of like showing up at high school and being like, wait a minute, what's my schedule? Like, I already missed my first couple periods. Like, where am I even supposed to be right now?
Meanwhile, the advanced kids are in Khadgar Tokens 105, or whatever, or is it 501? Which I don't know if this is normal. Jay corrects in chat. He's a high level PG player. Maybe he can explain this. I watch a lot of Dog on YouTube because he's Dog, right? Very, very good at Battlegrounds. Basically every game he does Khadgar brand tokens and just farms triples. Basically every single game.
Not just every YouTube game that you see. I'm guessing it's every YouTube game you see because those are the interesting ones to watch.
But it seems like something he does a lot. And there's a technique.
It's probably a very good strategy. So
yeah, it seems like a very good strategy. He just makes 8 triples in a turn. Like that seems really strong to me. I don't know. And there's also this thing that I'd heard about a while ago. That apparently has made its way to the West. It was a thing in China for a while where if you disconnect and reconnect after combat loads in, you wind up with your full time back at the shop, assuming you survive, right? You don't need to see combat for it to happen.
That's been a thing for a long time.
But so the thing that started in China that's made its way here is you make a Windows firewall exception to block Hearthstone for 3 seconds and then unblock it. So you click a script and then it just boops you. You don't have to restart the client or anything. It disconnects you and reconnects you in about 3 seconds. It's super efficient. And so I don't know if that's what Dog's doing, but even in the YouTube videos, he'll go into combat with a Khadgar in his hand and a token, and then he'll click a button. It'll stop for a second, disconnect, reconnect for 3 seconds, and then he has 2 full minutes, and he uses it every single second that he has, and he needs more. But it's very interesting. It feels like a different game. Yeah, Jay Kurek is saying in chat
I need to figure out how to do that because
apparently
I've tried a couple of the brand Khadgar combos or the golden Khadgars or double Khadgar. Any of those work pretty well, but it's difficult to pull off if you're not ending the client and restarting.
What Jay Kurek is saying in chat is that relatively few high level players actually do it. But yeah, it's a lot of work, but the results look crazy. Like just the video I watched last night, he just made a golden Caligos, just made one. And I mean, golden Caligos is pretty good. It's a good card.
I mean, regular Caligos is pretty good. Golden Caligos is better.
Decksplanations for the week right there. That's it.
Yep.
Edelweiss, how about
I can't
you?
cover BGs like that.
No, I that's more BGs than I've been playing. What about you? What have you been up to?
Well, we had the reset for the month, and I was messing around with some fun things for a bit, and meanwhile saw that my teammate hit rank 1 legend with Cthulhu Warrior, so I decided to try that. Yeah, it's been going very well. Good deck.
Why is Ironbeak Owl in that deck? I played one game of it, and I don't get it.
Yes, Ironbeak Owl is to beat ETC Warriors or just other Rattlegores generally, because you want to silence the Rattlegore and kill it before multiple copies can be made with Bloodsworn.
And I assume the Priest matchup is nearly impossible without the combo.
You have Cthulhu.
I wouldn't say so. Like, you just try and keep the board clear and then Cthulhu them. It's a totally reasonable win condition.
Well, I played against a Priest earlier, and keeping their board clear is not a thing you can do against Priest. I don't really understand where you're coming from.
I don't know what Priests are doing right now. I haven't seen a ton.
They're losing.
Like, if they had Galakron, then yeah, I imagine that would be challenging. But
no, they just had Raise Dead and Split, Psych Split, and if you're playing Psych Split, then you're against
Split Priest. That is not a common meta thing. I would imagine that's a difficult matchup because it's duplicating Devout Pupils. You're not really happy to see that as the warrior. You're kind of unhappy about that as the warrior. Yeah, but also it doesn't come up a lot. Because it's just people that net deck no hands deck from last month. And there is some exploration to be done in this format. But yeah, have you been playing that Cthulhu Warrior?
Yeah, it's been great.
It's a good deck. I remember back in the day.
He had like an 80% win rate. It was gross.
Yeah. Back in the day, you were always a control player. You love your fatigue matchups.
Which is, I mean, only for Hearthstone. And I always go back to aggro eventually. But when I first got into card games with Magic the Gathering, I played Red Deck Wins because it's what I could afford. And I think getting into Hearthstone was sort of my moment to try other stuff, because for like the same amount or less that I would spend on Red Deck Wins, honestly, that's another discussion. But anyways,
Thank you for not bringing up cost. Thank you.
I was able to make whatever I wanted once it became my main game, right? Once I wasn't putting as much time into Magic and was putting more time into Hearthstone, I got to try out so many different kinds of decks, and I always wanted to try control decks. And yeah, what you're alluding to, the fatigue mage thing, I mean, that wasn't like a common list, but the victories were the most satisfying because you have beaten every single card in your opponent's deck, and they have nothing left. That's, I don't know, enjoyable for me.
Yeah, I remember I forget which tournament it was. It might have been one of the Philly tournaments where you were also playing some kind of super grindy warrior. I always thought of you as the super grindy player, but yes, I remember the fatigue mage. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you've gotten back to your roots, as it were. And you get to play an old god. How about that? How often does actually casting Cthulhu come up?
A fair bit, just because you don't have a lot of damage otherwise. Your primary win conditions are Rattlegore and Cthulhu. So
I was so wrong about Rattlegore. I can't believe how wrong I was about that
I was
card.
so wrong about Cthulhu. I don't know. I thought it would be okay, but I didn't think it would be something that you get to cast very often. I suppose it's still not. A lot of games you just win from armor gain.
Yeah, I assume the deck plays Skipper Smith Bloodsworn.
Yes.
Yeah, you take those out. You take those out, and then we'll talk about Cthulhu again after rotation. We'll see where that ends up.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
Multiple Kargath Primes is good too.
Yes. Are you playing Stage Dive? There was a list of the ETC deck that was playing Kargath and 1 Broom and 2 Stage Dives, and it was pretty cool. Where like you would trade in Kargath in a previous turn and then just Stage Dive and go get the Prime. That was fun. I enjoyed that. Yeah. So I've been playing. Listener, please don't turn off the podcast. The end of last month, I got my Golden Demon Hunter, so I stopped playing it. So I stopped playing it. I got my Golden Demon Hunter, I got Legend with Aggro Demon Hunter, and then I stopped playing it. And this month, I have played 0 Demon Hunter. I've actually only played against 2 of them as well, but I played 0 Demon Hunter this month. I finally am back to.
It's only day 3. I'll believe it when I see it.
It's possible that I will switch back to it, because I do like the class. And yes, Laurentius points out, I was furiously pointing at the camera to inform, because a decision is more clear when you're pointing all the time. But I like Demon Hunter, even if it's a little too good right now, and we talked about a lot in the bonus episode that will be out after this is recorded, but before you hear this in your feed. And it needs some adjustments, and I think that some adjustments will be coming. But I like the class. I'm back to 10 out of 10 Golden. And then I stopped playing it this month. I've only played against 2 of them. I've played 20 games so far. Not a ton, but 20. Tried out a whole bunch of different stuff. I like Shaman. Evolved Shaman feels pretty gross. Pretty gross. And the newest list that I'm using, it's got some technology. Edelweiss level
I
technology.
think the word you're probably looking for is consistent.
It doesn't feel consistent, no. It feels like it's good.
Evolved Shaman?
Evolved
Shaman for me felt super consistent at getting boards and evolving them.
Well, yeah, I mean,
when
yeah,
I was
that's what the
playing
deck does. There were.
I mean, I don't mean consistent as in like what the minions that you get are consistent, but consistently getting better stuff than what you're playing onto the board.
It felt like I was generally able to execute my game plan unless I was against aggro DH, and then I was generally able to die. But the list that we're trying in the lab with some Zacco technology runs Geppetto Joybus. And let me tell you, 9 mana, Geppetto Joybus, get Mogu and Horde Pillager. Whew, that's something. Because then you play the 1 mana Horde Pillager, the 0 mana Mogu. And then you swing. And then you get a 5, a 9, and a 10. It's some good stuff. It's very pleasant. So my buddy Heatshock, who also writes for Vicious Syndicate, he entered top 50 with that list. I'll put it in the show notes. I enjoyed that. Also tried out some Aggro Shaman. It was okay. I liked Doomhammering. I didn't like losing when I didn't get Doomhammer, but I did get to Diligent Note Taker, Rockbiter, kill somebody today. That's a lot of damage. I tried out some Control Warlock. It sucks. I tried out some Secret Rogue. It's fine. I tried out some of Bach for Life's Spell Mage with it's a Tempo Mage. It has burn spells, no cyclones. It feels good when I get to burn people out and bad when I don't. So, And then they changed a Priest card today, so I tried one game with Priest, and I thought I was alive against ETC Warrior, and then it turns out I was not. So, yeah. I didn't do the math and then died from 32, even though they'd already used a Bloodsworn, because I let them hit me in the face with a Rattlegore that had Rush, and that dealt me 12, so I died. Should've done the math, didn't. Died with Wave of Apathy and a Lucia in my hand because I'm dumb. So, what you gonna do? I don't know.
Ooh, died with a Lucia in hand?
And I had 1 mana up and a Wave of Apathy in hand, and then died for Xaxes. So, like, I don't know. It might be like I'm bad at Priest and wasn't paying attention or something. I don't. Things could have gone better.
That's rough, buddy.
I mean,
I played some Doomhammers and got oozed and sticky fingered.
Yeah.
And I was like, maybe I don't want to play Doomhammers right now.
Yeah. And the meta, I think, has some depth to it and has some room for exploration, but we'll talk about it a little bit. There are a couple outliers that are definitely limiting innovation that I'm hoping will be addressed in the near future. We talked about it in the bonus episode again. We'll briefly cover it here in case anyone didn't listen to it. But we should jump into the news first, because I think that's pretty important. So let's go.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
All right. So actually, not a whole ton of news this week, thankfully. Patch the 19.0.2 hotfix came out today, which is a pretty cool hotfix. Little bit of a patch going. Didn't even have to update. I don't think. I just think it went in the background. So they fixed an issue that was causing players to have entirely blank quest logs and not receive daily or weekly quests, and the compensation should be coming. There was a bug with heroic duels matches that were not granting XP, and compensation coming in the future. You'll hear that a few times over the course of this hotfix. There was a bug where heroic duels were failing to start. Compensation coming. Fixed a bug where new players were not receiving the Dark Moon Legendary. There is also a bug where people were not being granted the reward for completing Chapter 5 in Tombs of Terror. There was a bug with Whizbang the Wonderful, not using the new deck recipes. Fixed a bug where Nizami Bloodweaver would incorrectly target cards that already costed 0, which is a big one for Standard. Fixed a bug where 17 Madness at the Dark Moon Fair cards were not draftable in Arena, which is kind of weird.
Which 17?
And there
17?
is an unlisted change in here that I noticed today. There is now an exclamation mark on your reward track when you have a reward to pick up that I specifically talked about last week, and I meant to talk about 2 weeks ago. So they're either listening to me, or that was an intended thing that probably was not, just wasn't talked about a lot, I guess. So I was excited about that, because for the first time my reward track had an exclamation point, and I went and I got my reward, and I'm like, that's how it should work.
I'm guessing the developers just heard the show last week and were just like, "Oh, we gotta work on this. We're gonna completely revamp the rewards track and double everyone's experience, but instead we gotta fix the indicator for Bodicus."
Yeah, exactly. We pull
UI
a
is
lot
the
of weight.
squeaky wheel, right? That's what.
Yep.
It's
So everything's good now.
If there's
No need to
anything,
complain about anything anymore.
if there's anything we learned from Knights of the Frozen Throne, is that Blizzard is slow to do anything about UI. Huh? Do you get it? Ultimate Infestation, the card UI has
Yep.
a different. So, anyways, moving on. The Nazmani Bloodweaver thing. It's kind of a thing. 'Cause-
Yeah, that is kind of a buff.
Um, effectively, yes, it is effectively a buff. It's calling it a buff like it was supposed to work this way the whole time. So they kind of like it was missing functionality, but yeah, it's going to perform better on ladder because of this. For the players unaware, it was a 3-mana 2/5 priest minion. Whenever you play a spell, it reduces the cost of another card in your hand by 1. Before, it would hit cards that could cost 0, like you would basically skip buffs. But now, if you have like a palm reading in a hand of 0 or of 1 cost spells, they all turn 0. And then you play Nazmani and you play all those, and you have one more big card in your hand. It's going to hit that card every time. So theoretically, you could build some kind of miracle priest where you have one large card in your hand, a Gahoon the Blood God, or a Murazond, or something, even Cthulhu pieces, and then just fire off all of your set up 0-mana spells with palm reading, and just get a whole bunch of discounts. And it could be scary. People are testing it out. We don't know yet, but I do imagine it will be impactful in some way. And I'm glad this got fixed well before Worlds so people can test it out, because it is not immediately obvious how you're going to build this deck. But players tried it on day 1 and then stopped because of the bug.
Yeah, I did play a few games with Priest before the fix, and even when it wasn't hitting, like when it was hitting the right targets, it felt okay, but not. I don't know. I don't think it's going to be all of a sudden game breaking. I just think that it might be a contender now, whereas before it kind of required that you always hit those cards in order for it to compete, I guess.
You know, I can't help but notice something here, Hat. We've got a lot of bug fixes. We've got 0 card changes.
That's correct. So, also in the bonus episode, we did make a bet as to when cards would be changed. My bet was Thursday, December 3rd. Some people might be aware that today is Thursday, December 3rd. I did say that earlier in the episode. In Blizzard time, we have 6 more hours. But I think it's unlikely they change today, so it's pretty likely that I will be sending packs to either my co-host Bodicus or my co-host Edelweiss. We'll see.
I mean, it's pretty likely it's going to be sent to Edelweiss. This is another situation, because remember, this seems to be a consistent theme we have going on with this bet, whereas I make the bet that I want it to, or that I think it's going to happen, and the exact timeline I don't want it to happen, which would be next week, Thursday, and that's just kind of consistent with how they've been changing cards, but hopefully not for the World Championship. Not consistent with the World Championship, just with, major tournaments and stuff. So hopefully we're both sending packs to Edelweiss again.
We'll see. You could be right.
No complaints here. Plus, we could all be wrong.
It's possible.
Could all be wrong.
What 17 cards were missing? Like, 17 is such a strange number for legendaries to be missing, or for cards to be missing.
I don't know. Why don't we ask the arena players? Oh wait.
Yeah.
Ouch.
I don't know if that one person
Rude
is
bot.
awake right now.
I'm just kidding. We love you, arena players.
We do.
Honestly,
if you exist, we love you, and if you don't, we understand.
I played Arena like occasionally to use tickets, but now you can use those tickets in duels. So I use duels similarly. Honestly, I played duels a lot more just because it's a nice different way to play, and it feels much more like when there's Brawliseum going on, except I just get to do it whenever. I don't know. I probably shouldn't be treating it that way because you can lose to pretty heavy variance sometimes, so it's much harder to consistently go infinite, but
it's a similar thing with Arena though, right? Like sometimes your whole deck just doesn't really come together in Arena, or you play against the person that I don't know what the meta is now, but I remember the old meta was just like, oh, they had 4 flame strikes in their deck, so I lost because I couldn't ever have a board of things.
Yeah, I can't really speak to that. I didn't play a ton of it, but I feel as though sometimes, like, you can hit the nuts in a much more powerful way in duels in terms of your passive treasures because they take effect at the beginning of the game.
Honestly, I have not had even the time to play duels. Like I've just been focused entirely
It does
on
take a
standard.
minute.
Yeah. And you know, I could weave it in if I wanted to, I guess, but I haven't felt the need to push it. I'm enjoying standard enough, and I'm also recognizing the need to just meter my Hearthstone play right now to make sure that I don't burn myself out on it. As towards the end of the year, I usually find myself in that situation. So I'm just playing a little bit less, and duels is fun, and I really like the mode. But these days, lately, when I am relaxing on the couch or whatever, I just don't find myself loading up Hearthstone. Thank you, by the way, to DeWolf in the chat who sent us a link to all of the missing cards in Arena. This is a very strange list. Bladed Lady, Cenarian Ward, Day at the Fair, Deck of Lunacy, Dunk Tank, Fairground Fool, Fellscream Blast, Fellsteel Executioner, Greybow, Insatiable Fellhound, Kathir Ritualist, Revolve, Rigged Fair Game, Stilt Stepper, Stormstrike, Throwglaive, Whack-a-Knoll, Hammer. There is no rhyme or reason to any of these.
Huh.
Absolutely no pattern that I can see.
Well, weird. Glad it's fixed.
Sure. Yeah. I'll paste this into the show notes as well. Strange. But yeah, I'm glad they're fixing this stuff. It's entirely possible they have a client patch coming. They did also say that there's a bug right now. Not a bug, but like a missing feature. You remember the disconnect functionality they added? Where if you're in a friendly challenge and then one player disconnects, then it pauses the game. There's
much better for tournaments.
As of right now, if you get disconnect on, you can't exit the game. You have to wait till the other player rejoins.
Huh.
So that's
What if they
bad.
don't?
Then you wait for your game to time out, which I think is an hour. It's disruptive to tournaments. So they're aware of it. Celestalon tweeted that they're working on it, but they tried to hotfix it and found it could not be hotfixed. They needed a client download. So that is being worked on. I hope that's soon. Because it's something that is affecting a few people in grassroots tournaments that have talked about it. I think one of the TDF guys was talking about it, how it came up. And people
so you
have
can't even like Control Alt Delete.
You can exit the client, but then you reload in, you're back in the game. Yeah, because you're stuck in the game server side. It's
very strange.
They're working on it. Apparently, it's the sort of thing they could not hotfix. So I don't know. They're working on it. It's coming. But just be aware of that. Yeah. What else we got, Bodigus?
So there was a tweet today from the official Hearthstone Esports account that they're giving away 8 Dark Moon Fair Mega Bundles, 9 Standard Bundles, and 100 BattleNet balance or $10 BattleNet balances to random lucky winners that must be residents of the United States. That is something they clarify in a follow-up tweet, but this is unfortunately US only giveaway, but still kind of cool. I mean, giving away stuff is nice. I'm sorry for our international friends, but giveaway laws suck.
It feels kind of weird that this is a world championship.
And like getting pre-purchase bundles when they aren't available anymore.
That is
like
weird.
It's cool, but I'm also just curious like how that works, because obviously we can't see in the shop those bundles anymore.
And also, if you already have it, then I assume you can't get it again.
Right.
Yeah, it is weird that I've never seen them give away bundles after the set has already come out before.
Yeah, that's also, I think, seemingly a new thing.
But I'm guessing there's got to be ways to redeem it, because I'm sure there have been plenty of cases of Twitch streamers giving away a bundle to somebody and they forget to claim it until after the set's out, and I'm sure they're probably still able to claim it.
I mean, it's Blizzard Esports, right? It's first party Blizzard. They can do whatever they want with your account. They can just drop stuff into your account. So they might just manually grant it on their end. I have no idea. It's not like they're sending away codes. And they could theoretically send away codes, they just aren't doing anymore. But I think that they will probably just drop them into accounts. It's interesting. But it feels like, it just feels a bit of a miss to do a US only giveaway for World Championships. Considering that also
I mean,
the
there's giveaway laws though, right? Like they might have wanted to do the giveaway, and I'd rather them do the giveaway and give it than not do it, right?
I don't know like. Yes, if that's the law, I have to imagine there has to be some way for them to do a global giveaway, though. Like, there has to be some way.
I mean, there's probably a way, but it might have required more time, and this might have been a last-minute addition thing. But
yeah,
I know that a popular show that I watch a lot complains about giveaway laws a lot, which is Critical Role. They always complain about how they can't send giveaways to Quebec for some reason.
Quebec, yeah. Well, in Quebec, you remember MDI and WoW that Shaq couldn't play because of Quebec laws. Shaq couldn't tank with JB because Method's team, because he's from Quebec, and so he was not allowed to compete back in the day.
So I'm hoping that this is the reason. I assume that they would, if they could give away these bundles outside of the US, they would still do that. So I'm guessing that it's the law and not their decision to just be like, hey, World Championships, we're just going to give it away to people in the US. But I've been wrong about stuff like that before. So,
well, I mean, you're probably right, because it doesn't, clearly the intention here was not to give away things to one country in a tournament that celebrates every country. We can assume that wasn't the intention. So I'm guessing it was the law.
US-based company, so
yeah,
much easier to do it to the US. And who knows, maybe China's side of things is doing their own thing, since they kind of are a separate branch in a lot of more distinct ways.
I don't know. It's speaking of Quebec. Speaking of Canada. So remember those random golden legendaries? Remember those? That we talked about a couple weeks ago? That people just randomly had a legendary?
Yes.
So Celeston posted a tweet today. This was compensation for a mistake in the stated contents of one of our bundles in one of our web stores. So I went in our chat and I tagged the people. And I tagged Skittles and Notorious GHP and Marspad, who's a Firestone, or who's a Fireside organizer in Canada. And Marspad is like, my entire community's popping off about this. And I went to check my tweets about who got it. Neji Boston, Zeddy, Jiminator. It's Canadians. They're all Canadians. So, on the Canadian web store, apparently it stated that they would get a golden legendary with the smaller bundle. So if you bought the smaller bundle, and you are a Canadian, then you got your golden legendary. It's very specific, and very strange, and kind of funny.
It is pretty cool to see the pattern
awesome.
in retrospect.
Yeah. It's... all the pieces fell into place because I was about to... I went to tag people and was like, wait a minute, am I tagging Canadians? Is that what I'm doing? So yeah, not random, deterministic. If you were a Canadian who bought the smaller bundle only. And I don't know if it happened in French Canada. It might have only been on the English site, because it's possible that Quebec didn't see this. I don't know. We'll never know.
But I thought they were saying, I don't know, some people were saying that people who didn't buy the bundle and some people who did buy the bundle were getting it.
Everyone bought at least one bundle. Everyone that had it had bought at least one of the bundles. So I didn't track exactly which bundle people had bought, but I think it was specifically the smaller one. Yeah. So if you did get a golden legendary and you're not Canadian, let me know. But we seem to have figured it out for now.
Or if you're Canadian and didn't buy a single bundle
Well, no,
or anything.
we know that. Yeah, if you are not a Canadian that bought a bundle and you did get a golden legendary, then message us. And if you are Canadian, we like you. Thanks for poutine. Poutine's great. Do you know what poutine is, Botticus?
I do.
Do you not like French fries with
It's
gravy
not-
and
You
cheese?
don't sound like you like it.
I don't like food.
He
What?
doesn't like
How many
food. That's
times
true.
do we have to go over this on the
Th-
show?
it's-
All right.
If
sure,
it's food,
yeah.
probably won't eat it. By the way, if it's a cheeseburger or a chocolate shake, it's likely. But outside of that, it gets less and less likely as you go.
Meanwhile, I had a
Poutine
McRib
is
yesterday.
As unhealthy as cheeseburger. I would-
This
It's
is
not about the
it's-
healthiness.
Edelweiss,
it's about
don't engage. Don't-
edibility.
don't do it. Don't.
All right.
There is only sadness here.
I mean, I got a thing of peanut butter filled pretzels as something to sate my hunger whenever I'm like feeling a little hungry. And it's been good in that I eat more, but also a little bad in that I eat fewer real meals because I just like have some chocolate stuffed pretzels.
This is why I stopped doing Girl Scout cookies
Or
because
not chocolate, peanut butter.
Yeah, I stopped doing Girl Scout cookies because I would just bring a box next to my desk and then I wouldn't eat dinner and then the box would be empty and I was like, why do I feel so awful? What's going on? Can't do that. Sorry, Samoas. We have an unhealthy relationship. So anyways, why don't we talk about tournaments? Let's go.
It's the grand tournament.
All right, World is coming. 9 days from today. That is one Skull of Gul'dan away. 9 days. We've got our last 4 player profiles, Yarla, Silvername, Sif, and Shao Ti, up in the Play Hearthstone website. Got player profiles of all 8 players. Pretty cool. Check it out. It's coming. Decklist deadline should be, I think, next Wednesday, but it might be next Thursday. I imagine the lines will be posted. Yeah. I'm looking forward to this. It'll be nice, actually, with the amount of downtime we've had. I think it'll be nice to check out what players are bringing. What's up, Wicked Good and friends? Hello, Raiders. How is Priests? How is the Priest situation? Hope you're all enjoying your Nazmani Bloodweavers. Welcome. So, we've got Worlds, and in addition to that, we have a really cool tournament. So, No Pros here, and Tierras del Fuego put together an event called the Hearthstone Community Champions. We have 8 different organizations that have come together. Aspirant, House Rivalries, Liga Ace, No Pros here, Online Sports Championships, Team Hearth Legends, Tierras del Fuego, and Swagoy Gaming will represent their respective communities. So each community has 8 constructed champions and 8 battlegrounds champions that are coming together, and we're going to have 2 centralized streams, one in English, one in Spanish. So it's announced over on No Pros Here's website, and it's a cool event, and we'll bring together all these different grassroots organizations, and I'm really excited personally for the English and Spanish community crossover, because the Latin American scene is very vibrant. They got a lot going on, and there are a bunch of these different groups as well in English-speaking countries in the West that have been putting on these mini tournaments. I'm looking forward to seeing how this goes down.
Yeah, should be a lot of fun. We've had to share some players because they're very different types of communities going on. You know, THL is based around its series format tournaments. Swagoy Gaming is sort of an esports team first, but also we happen to have partnered with various groups to run tournaments. So we usually are more on the side of competing in things rather than organizing. Our player, Cookie Monster, who has done very well in Aspirant, he won the Aspirant series twice. He's going to be playing for Aspirant from that notoriety rather than playing for us.
There's a lot of overlap because the kind of people that like this sort of thing, well, they like competing, so they enter in a bunch of them. I think 2-Star Mako qualifies for like 3 or 4 of these, and I imagine that a lot of I don't know as much about the Latin American scene, but I imagine a bunch of those players as well have a lot of crossover. So really excited to see this go down, and as the commissioner of THL, I believe that we win. But also, as a person that independently covers the entire scene, I think that everybody's a winner here.
I think that Latin America has it pretty handily because...
Yeah. I've seen who they're bringing. You've seen who they're bringing. Listen, I believe that THL will win, but also the Latin American players that are coming are they're not messing around. There's some names. Yeah. So... finally, we actually have a Vicious Syndicate report here, number 180, giving us a review of the meta right now. The meta appears to be a little sick because it's looking kind of green. There's... at Legend ranks, the most popular class, 21.6% of games are Demon Hunter. Shaman second, mostly Evolve. Paladin third, mostly Pure. Control Warriors. Then Hunters, then Rogues. And then Other. And the
Highlander Hunters.
The what?
The Highlander Hunters. For a while, they were on top.
Not in terms of representation. In terms of win rate, they're there, but in terms of representation, in terms of popularity. And really, both in terms of win rate and in terms of popularity. We've got 6 classes, and then the report actually skips to the other classes because they're just not really competitive, and that's a little sketchy. It's a little scary. And yeah, I don't think the meta is terrible. I don't think it's bad, but it's already feeling a little stale to some people, and this kind of lays out why. There are some classes that just aren't really there unless you're willing to make some compromises about your win rate or experiment with stuff that hasn't been figured out yet. And the stuff that's good and stable is so good and so stable that it's kind of hard to not play. Should we be talking about cheeseburgers? You want to talk about cheeseburgers? At a Mexican restaurant? Do you want to do that?
Well, I'm about to go AFK for the next half an hour, so...
go get a cheeseburger.
I might just go get a cheeseburger.
Yeah. So, in order to talk about how to deal with DH, well, that's going to be your Decksplanations this week, so let's jump right in.
So both Aggro and Soul Demon Hunter are quite strong, as mentioned. I myself hit a very late legend, but I was sort of phoning it in with Aggro Demon Hunter at the end of November, and it got there pretty fast. Just 20-4 record, cruised on up. So, like I said, I fall back into aggro habits when I get tired of messing around. We have honestly been evolving this aggro list. It started with the acrobatics at the top end, sometimes running Kane. But then Hat showed me a version with Skull. At least I think it was you. Anyways.
Sounds like something I would do.
Where we've got Polk out, and then the top of the curve is Skull of Gul'dan, and then when you get that guaranteed skull, you will hit Altruist because of the Polkelt, along with a couple of 3-drops that become free. It's extremely gross. It swings boards pretty well, and yeah, very very powerful stuff going on. I mean, we knew Altruist was good reduced, so that remains true.
It feels
The
oddly
lower the-
nostalgic, by the way. Like, for
A little
someone
bit.
that played a lot of aggro DH and Ashes, it feels... The Pole Celt is different, but sculling into Altruist does feel oddly familiar, and I judge myself a little bit for having missed it, but the first time I did it again, feels pretty good. Feels pretty good to jam an Altruist and then deal 5 to all your opponent's stuff and their face, and then also bubble the Altruist, and then also mana burn them.
I'm disappointed in both of you.
We made peace
I
with that
didn't
coming
play
in.
it the first time around.
Also, didn't that that card used to cost 3?
No, that card used to
It
cost
did.
0. It used to cost nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
that's
yes,
true.
it used to cost free. Also,
I
anyone
mean,
that tells you the Twin Slice...
The slices were free as well.
Anyone that tells you the Twin Slice should be reverted is not your friend. Do not trust them. Because I know there are people that are making the argument of nerfing Twin Slice by moving it back to 0. Do not do that! No. No. Do not make Bladed Lady cheaper for free. Do not make Blade Dance better for free. Just make the card do less damage. Let's go.
Yeah. Well, the next evolution of these aggro demon hunters that I saw was the full face version, where you run leper gnome. You go back to the acrobatics.
Oh,
and
this
you
is
run
Orange's
leper
list.
gnomes
Yeah.
and Sandstorm Trooper, which is the 2-mana 2/1 that when it dies deals 3 damage to the enemy hero. So you know, if you don't even want to plan out your turns in that sense, you can just go full face. I don't actually know which is better in the mirror. I haven't gotten to see that firsthand, but very much.
Lower.
I could.
Lower is better.
It lowers better. That makes sense. Yeah. Oftentimes, it's whoever can make the opponent.
It's Face Hunter
hurt
versus
the
Highlander
fastest.
Hunter, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's the deck that wants to play
Yeah.
Yeti and then wait a turn is going to lose to the deck that wants to smash your face. And also, usually the super low curve lists play Mana Burn. You don't want to get Mana Burned after you get Pole Celt. You really don't want
sure.
that to happen. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I was trying the super duper low list as well. Like, it doesn't even run Kane. I actually cut the Acrobatics for Spectral Sight, because Acrobatic cost 3 and Spectral Sight cost
Interesting.
2, and 2 was less than
true.
3, and we just want the curve to be as low as possible. And it's not like I was having a whole bunch of... I wasn't in need of having 2 extra cards in hand, as opposed to having 2 cards faster that I could use right now, especially when Voracious Reader's involved. Yeah.
Absolutely. I've gotten some Voracious Readers to stick, by the way, and that feels dirty sometimes. But conversely, I've been playing against Demon Hunter occasionally, and specifically been taking out their higher damage threats and leaving the Voracious Reader up, and sometimes they're actually not able to take full use of it. I've been sort of surprised how often there can be a couple of cards stranded just because of how much card draw there is. So I think sometimes you need to prioritize just taking out the higher damage threats, leave the Voracious Reader, and just hope they can't take full advantage of it, because it can be harder than you think. 3 cards every turn is a lot to throw down, particularly when they also draw cards like Stilt Sever.
Yeah, and I think, like... So, there's going to be a lot of conversation in general about nerfing Demon Hunter, and I think that it is justified conversation. We had a big, in-depth conversation about it on the bonus episode that we've alluded to a few times, but to give the super short, condensed version of that so we don't repeat ourselves, but don't confuse anyone that didn't get to listen to it, or any of our live listeners that haven't heard it yet because it hasn't been released yet. Basically, Twin Slice needs to get nerfed because it's the only card that both Aggro and Soul Demon Hunter play, and then from there... You need to take some amount of damage away from Aggro Demon Hunter. You need to take some amount of board control away from Soul Demon Hunter. What my wishes have evolved into are, I want Dreadlord's Bite, the 3-mana 3/2 weapon that when you outcast it, it deals 1 to all enemies. I would like that to have 2 attack instead of 3 attack, because I think that it being a swipe when you play it from outcast and hero power, except it deals more damage, is kind of crazy. And I would like to see Shard Shatter Mystic move to 4 because that's how much Duskbreaker should cost. It's kind of where I've landed for now. And we'll talk more about strategy, but just to get ahead of the conversation, people are going to be listening to this and like, well, yeah, but how would you change it? This is how I would change it. Edelweiss, I know that you would touch on some things as well in the bonus. And Bodicus, I know you want to delete the class.
Whoa,
Yeah.
whoa. I don't want to delete the class. I just don't want to ever play against it again. Me personally. Everybody else, play it all you want. Play against other people, just not me.
I guess once 2019 servers.
What was it, 2019?
Was it? It was. Yeah.
No, it's 2019. What if you landed in Doom and Tombs, though?
You know what? We're just not going to think about that. Yeah.
I mean, I was enjoying playing some 0-mana Mogu Flesh Shapers on turn 3.
You were also enjoying...
I'm not everybody.
In line for Battlegrounds, we were playing Mogu Cultists. And that's much more fun than Mogu Flesh Shapers. Remember the Warlock deck? Where you would shuffle in, you would get the...
Oh, yeah.
Right?
That was super fun. Just
Yeah.
deal 40 damage to the opponent.
We would shuffle in Mogu Cultist and then get a 0-mana Glinda Crowskin, and then just play a board of Mogu Cultist and get 2 with the 2020s. Yeah. It was, that was a good
that was
waiting
so
in line for
goofy.
Battlegrounds game. That was enjoyable. So anyways.
Yeah. So with these decks, in terms of mulligans, well, first we'll talk about matchup spread. You're really good against Druid. Druid just, I mean, unless they have the perfect ramp into defensive setup, they kind of die to a strong breath of wind in the early turns, and Demon Hunter does not give them the time to develop. So you are pretty handily going to beat Druids. Evolve Shaman as well. They have a lot of setup turns, and their early minions aren't well statted because the intent is that they are evolved. So you're usually going to run them over. Pure Paladin is a little closer, but you're usually too fast for them. You can grab control of the board early and sort of maintain control so that you can get over the line before they really start throwing up 8/8 Divine Shield taunts repeatedly and healing. In terms of counters, Soul Demon Hunter, which we'll get to next, is pretty rough. Skipper Warrior, also pretty rough. And Miracle Rogue will sometimes get you because free stuff. Backstab's a good card.
It's more like, so Miracle Rogue is kind of okay against both Demon Hunters sometimes because Miracle Rogue does stuff. Like, it's, sometimes you get Edwin and backstabs.
And random secrets are rough.
Yep. And sometimes against Soul Demon Hunter, they go Jandis Barov, Shadow Step, Jandis Barov, and that's also very good against Soul Demon Hunter. But really, the way to deal with Aggro Demon Hunter is to gain a lot of life and counter pressure simultaneously. Which is why you'll notice, even though Warrior is one of the better decks in the format, is also kind of holding the format together, because it's good at beating both the Demon Hunter decks and not really much else is. Like Paladin, kind of. But aggro Demon Hunter goes under Pure Paladin most of the time. It's too wide, too fast, and it hits too hard because they don't actually need all that much of a board, and the Ultraris version destroys Pure Paladin. Because Pure Paladin is good at many things, is not good at dealing with an Ultraris for 5. So, I mean, not a ton of things are great at dealing with an Ultraris for 5. It's a lot of Ultrarising. So anyways, yeah, this deck's really good. As far as mulligans go, you don't want a mulligan for a low curve. You want a mulligan for a lower curve than you have. Almost certainly. Keep 1-drops. If it's not a 1-drop, probably don't keep it. Except sometimes if you have 3 1-drops on the coin, you can keep Wriggling Horror.
Mm-hmm. On the coin specifically?
Yes. If you're going first, even if you have 1-drop into 1-drop into Wriggling Horror, that's a 3-drop. Don't keep 3-drops. Mulligan for 1s. If you think you're going to need a card later, probably mulligan for 1s. If you have a far left Dreadlord's Bite and 2 other 1-drops in the mirror, probably mulligan for ones.
And I generally don't like keeping Reader, even if the rest of my hand is ones, just because if you hit the second one, it's the worst. It just feels so awful. And there's so much draw that you're probably going to find something. So even if it feels like, oh, well, I'm just going to gas out really quickly, or, oh, well, I'll play these ones and then Reader will be refill, like that Reader won't come down until potentially like 4 or 5. So I don't prioritize keeping Reader particularly often. There are definitely some matchup specific keeps. Obviously, the one drops are going to be amazing, but Og Merchant against like the mirror can be really great just because it's a ping. So if you are up against what you think is going to be another aggro demon hunter, or if you're up against a hunter, which is usually some kind of aggressive deck, usually Highlander right now. Og Merchant is great because if you just hero power and then use the Og Merchant, that's 2 damage while developing a 2/1. And if you get to use it to defend Battle Fiend or Intrepid Initiate, also very powerful there. I think the number one drop is Intrepid Initiate, because that card it becomes a 3/2 so easily with Twin Slice and Demon Companion and just all the spells that we're running now, or just being on coin, is going to happen half the time. And Battle Fiend is it'll surprise you. Like, Battle Fiend is kept, I think, upwards of 90% of the time in matchups, but with such a density of 1-drops, it is actually not your best 1-drop because it's a 2-drop in disguise. You want to be hero powering the same turn that you're going to be playing Battle Fiend. So it can be really weird to throw down on 1 and then it gets eaten by something that it could have traded with potentially. I am still on the fence about, like, do I ever throw back Battle Fiend against, like, if I think it's the mirror playing against another Demon Hunter. I'm going to start trying to do that. Certainly it's better than having no 1-drops, but I think if I already have a solid 1-drop, I might be throwing it back for Twin Slice, because, oh my goodness, if you are the player with Twin Slice in the mirror, your opponent's early game is paralyzed, right? They have to throw something down as a sacrifice because you kill the first one with the Twin Slice, and then you've just got the second slice sitting in hand. Well, they're like, okay, if I play something 3 health, it's just dead. And like, I know that's going to happen for 2 mana. It can be really, really crippling. The Taunt, what's it called again? The 2/3
Bone Chewer Brawler.
Yeah, Bone Chewer Brawler. Not good. Not good in the mulligan. You might want it later if you can combo it with the Og Merchant or with Sidekick.
It's good in
But
the
in
deck, we should
general-
clarify. But
yeah. Oh yeah, good,
you
good
know
in the
what?
deck, but not good in the mulligan.
You know why it's not? It doesn't
Because
cost
of
1.
Twin Slice.
Doesn't cost 1.
Yes. Yep.
Keep cards that cost 1. If you're in the mirror, keep Twin Slice. I wouldn't keep Twin Slice anywhere else, I don't think. Like, it can be kind of okay against Hunter, but it's usually worse than you want it to be, because sometimes they have a different kind of opening than you want, and sometimes you can trigger a Pack Tactics or Snake Trap, and then you fall really far behind. But keep proactive 1-drops, and in the mirror, keep Twin Slice. I like that.
Have on occasion kept the weapon if I sort of know what I'm up against. But you want to already have your 1-drops. It is not worth having the weapon if you don't have your 1-drops.
Yes. It's nice to have the weapon Outcast. It's good in the mirror. It's a strong card. Maybe if you have it on the coin and 3 other 1-drops. But still probably not worth it.
Particularly because increasingly they're not running Umberwing.
Yeah.
So you're not dealing with those little piddly 1/1s. I think against Rogue, it can be nice to have, because Rogue has a lot of lackeys going on. But again, it comes down to that that early pressure and snowballing that you get with the 1-drops.
Yeah. And there are worlds where sometimes against Warrior, if you have a few early cards to play, you can keep Polkelt specifically against Warrior. It's still probably not worth it unless you have the the perfect other cards. And don't coin Polkelt. You play Polkelt on 5 usually. But even then, it's still don't do that in other matchups. It's really just a Warrior thing if you need the extra reach. Even then, you're usually better off just pressuring. So,
Yeah.
So Botticus, we were chatting a little bit in our group chat. I wanted to get your opinions on what it feels like to play against Demon Hunter, and if you have any advice there.
This is a bait. No. This is a bait. Because Hat said in our chat, he said, "Hey bot, do you want to talk about playing against Demon Hunter?" And I said, "Nope." Because what am I gonna say? I'm gonna sit here and be like, "Wah, wah, it sucks to play against Demon Hunter." No, not gonna do that. We're not gonna be negative.
Okay.
We're here to be positive. We're here to help people, and I'm not gonna be very helpful.
Okay.
So you two are doing a great job talking about a great deck that people should definitely play and do well with and win on ladder as long as you don't play against me.
Okay. I am going to engage with you seriously a little bit here, though, because I have noticed, I have interacted with a lot of people, and I think there's some merit here, by the way. The anti-Demon Hunter sentiment is not a unique sentiment. It's not everybody, but it's not nobody for sure. It's notable, it's visible, and it's when people talk about Demon Hunter, it's not I hate this deck. It's the class. And I did want to take a little break here before we talk about Soul Demon Hunter, which everybody loves, so of course we won't, that won't be a problem. I'm being sarcastic, not everybody loves it. What about the experience do you think is contributing to this feeling, this global community feeling that is at least popular? And you can speak to it from your perspective as well as what you think might be going on in a larger perspective. I'm curious where you land and where you think other people are coming from as well.
So what I think the issue is, if I had to guess, which I don't know that it is actually the issue, is that Demon Hunter functions on somewhat of a different axis than your standard Hearthstone deck does, because there have been decks in the past that have been very unpopular for people to play against, like Face Hunter, which operates on the axis of dealing damage directly to your opponent's face. And Demon Hunter generally is pretty good at it, regardless of if you're playing Soul Demon Hunter or Aggro Demon Hunter. It's very good at doing that, but it does it in a way that feels different, and it doesn't feel like not only does it not feel like you don't have the tools to be able to deal with their strategy, but it also feels like they have tools packed in that prevent you from using those tools effectively to kind of stop that strategy. For instance, today I was playing I think I played a couple games with Priest against a hunter who it was a face hunter, or a very aggressive hunter, that had a really good curve, but I put a few taunts in the way and I played around their secrets, and they just didn't have the tools to be able to get through my large taunts. And it felt like I could develop a strategy that could really play around that, where I feel like if I was playing against a demon hunter, they have very effective tools like Consume Magic and
Kane
that get around that effectively and don't allow you that time to stabilize. And while the hunter matchup I don't necessarily think is good, or maybe that hunter had a bad draw, but it felt like I had agency in being able to enact a plan that could beat the hunter, and I knew what I could do to beat the Hunter. Whereas a lot of the games against Demon Hunter, I feel like I develop a strategy that theoretically should be good against them, and then they just have the tools to effectively be able to get around that or ignore it entirely. And I think that's kind of the sentiment I feel, is just that the tools the Demon Hunter has are better than the anti-Demon Hunter tools that Demon Hunter has are better than the majority of other classes' tools to be able to deal with the things that are technically good against them, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually want to jump in here. We're going to take a little bit further of a detour before we move on to Soul Demon Hunter. I think that it's the first time we've had, a class archetype where it's aggressive and part of its identity is card draw, like very specifically. Not much in terms of card generation, that's not there. But they're really good at drawing cards. And so it just means you've got this persistent stream of damage being pointed at your face. And if you're buffing your character's attack, it all has charge all the time. So we've hit this density where Demon Hunter just keeps getting stuff that's with its identity of buffing its attack. And that just culminates in a lot of face damage. And they are created in different ways. Like Relentless Pursuit is interesting, that it makes you immune for the turn. And it seems like, oh, cool board control tool, except I don't know how often that immune has mattered because it's just pointed at the opposing face. And
I would like to take this moment to appreciate the nerf to Warglaze of Azeroth. Just throwing that out
yes. Yep.
there. Ugh.
Yeah. I mean, oh my goodness. Yeah, if we were running Warglaze of Azeroth with immune for the turn, that's just that's pretty gross.
I appreciate the nerf. Thank you, Blizzard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Edelweiss, that's also an excellent point that I noticed, is one of the things that I think about when I was going against the Hunter is like, okay, they only have they only have a couple cards left. I'm whittling them down off of cards, so I know that eventually they're only going to be able to play one card a turn, and I just have to deal with their hero power, and I get to start playing 2 more powerful cards a turn, and that's kind of the strategy to you can outlast a Hunter. Whereas Demon Hunter, eventually they draw the voracious Reader, or they draw the Skull of Gul'dan, and all of a sudden they get back in the game, and it's so rare. It feels so rare that you're able to run a Demon Hunter out of resources. They either run out of cards in their deck, and that's like the way you run them out of resources, whereas feels like other classes that have played aggro before, you could run them out of resources and they'd still have 15 cards left in their deck or something, and you could take over the game from there. Whereas having a class that revolves around being able to reliably draw all 30 of their cards eventually, like before turn 30 or whatever.
And
like
aggro DH last expansion, though, we should look at an aggro DH and Skullomance. It wasn't that different, but Reader was around and it wasn't good enough, right? Like, and part of that was, they hadn't nerfed Druid yet, and you weren't gonna, like, no matter how many resources you had, you were not gonna keep up with Guardian Animals on 7 mana, which was turn 4-ish.
Oh god.
Yeah.
I forgot it used to cost 7.
Yeah. There were a lot of different tools in the format for dealing with it, because we had a lot of the same cards. We got some new stuff. We got Stilt Stepper, which is card draw and damage together at last, just like we always wanted. We got Dreadlord's Bite, and we got it's really just those 2 in the new aggro. Oh, and Acrobatics if you want to play that. But Spectral Sight is fine. We didn't get a ton of new cards, but it was enough. It was just enough for that critical mass. Stilt Stepper is like, it's archetype defining for aggro DH. We definitely need it. But it's like, there haven't been too many moments since Demon Hunter's release where it's been like bad. I think no moments. I think it has never been bad. Aggro DH kind of fell off last expansion, but the class was still good. You could still play Demon Hunter, and Soul DH was Turns out it was good the whole time. Who could have guessed? We've kind of figured that out like 2 weeks in-ish. And maybe that first 2 weeks, it was really like the first 2 or 3 weeks of Scholomance when it was Druid and Paladin a lot, and it felt like Demon Hunter wasn't quite there. Definitely refreshing, but then we had the cards all along, and they nerfed stuff until DH got good. I don't know. Is it a class design thing philosophically, or is it the cards we have now, or is it both?
I think it's a bit of both. Like, I question how Warlock can be good while Demon Hunter exists. Right? We haven't
Bring
had
back
good
Sacrificial
Warlock.
Pact?
I mean,
But that
also-
wasn't great, right? That wasn't a
Yeah.
good solution.
No, it was not.
And
Also, like, Warlock, I mean, back in the day, Warlock had the best hero power in the game. And now,
now
Demon
you can't
Hunter-
recycle the resource.
yeah, well, Demon Hunter has the best hero power in the game by a wide margin. It's like, I don't think it's particularly close to any other hero
Hunter
power.
is the other one that I would say. I think Hunters is still really strong.
I mean,
It's different.
Hunter probably the second best, but I think that the fact that it costs one, being able to generate essentially the hero power, I think in the past we've likened it to being worth half a card or something, like giving it a value of essentially card generation, and being able to use it way more than twice as often because it costs half as much as all of the other hero powers. Just it's not generating, like, literally generating cards in your hand, but it's essentially card generation for the class that doesn't generate cards, because it just has all of this extra potency, even though it's technically less potent than the other classes.
Right. Like, it's interesting, you can armor up and it's worth 2 Demon Hunter hero powers, but you can't squeeze that armor in as frequently as the Demon Hunter can weave in their hero power.
I'm looking at the Initiate set, which rotates out in March. I'm wondering what Demon Hunter would look like without the following cards. These cards are all rotating out in March. Battle Fiend, Consume Magic, Mana Burn, Twin Slice, Umberwing, Blade Dance, Eye Beam, Ulcerus. If you remove those cards from Standard, I wonder what Demon Hunter would look like.
I have no idea.
Well, what is
because
left?
You need
I mean,
something in-
like,
to replace
telling
them.
us the cards they're taking out is fine and all, right? It tells us what we can't play anymore, but what cards do they maintain is, I think.
I mean, they keep Cane and Skull, right? But you keep Cane and Skull.
Wait, Skull is kept? Really?
Skull is in Ashes of Outland.
Oh, okay. It's an Ashes of Outland. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's not here forever. It's not a basic card, but it's in Ashes of Outland. And
so is there, what are basic cards for Demon Hunter?
so I'll look them up. Just to clarify as well, the Demon Hunter Initiate set is rotating in March with Year of the Dragon. When it rotates, they are not making a classic set right away that we know of. Their previous comments indicate they are making a Demon Hunter classic set in 2022, a year from 2021, because all of the sets this year had 5 extra cards for Demon Hunter to make up for the lack of the classic set. So they're keeping a larger card pool in Standard because the sets got bolstered, got more cards. And the Demon Hunter Initiate set was to make up for the cards they didn't get in Year of the Dragon. But the extra 5 cards they got per set is to make up for Classic. They're not going to make Classic right away, at least not that we're aware of. They have previously stated they are not going to.
Blade Dance.
So
is a
I
big
would
deal.
say,
Yeah.
I would say the notable cards that are staying with Demon Hunter in the quote-unquote basic set would be Chaos Strike, Eldrachi Warblades, and then Glavebound Adept, which doesn't see a ton of play now, but has always still been a very good card.
Mhm.
And Satyr Overseer, which after the Twin Slice nerf, obviously much worse, but probably
It's still powerful.
Still powerful. So those are I think the mainstays, and then
And maybe like
I mean,
Sightless
there-
Watcher
there's
is
other-
fine. Like, it's fine. It's
Yeah.
not exciting. So
But like Chaos Strike, super good,
yes,
and Eldrazi Warblades, still very good, and that used to have an extra durability. And then Glavebound Adepts kind of, I don't know,
It's a
it
good
feels
card.
like a staple that the deck's just too good right now that not every deck plays it, but even then I've still seen some.
Yeah. I think the loss of Consume Magic, Twin Slice, and Mana Burn is kind of a big deal. Those are all very, very good 1-mana spells. Makes Wand Maker a lot worse. It's, I don't know if Wand Maker would still find a home in the deck, but just looking at, when you were talking about effective tools to get past taunts, Consume Magic is about as efficient as a card can be. 1-mana silence a thing, draw a card is kind of insane. So I'm glad that's going away. I'm glad Mana Burn's going away. This was clearly the experiment. And looking at the set, thinking about Demon Hunter, I'm glad they're going to get a little worse after rotation, losing this stuff. They're still going to keep a lot of powerful cards. But also, they are the only class with a hero power and core set that was not designed in 2013. And we've learned a lot about card design since 2013. And these cards are better. Like, there are a lot of really clunky cards for the other classes in the classic and basic set. We've talked about it many, many times in this show. Anyone that mained Shaman or Paladin, you know this already, we don't have to tell you. And the original Classic and Basic was super broken and super uneven, and Rogue is still too good. The Rogue Classic cards are still too good. The only one they really got right was Hunter, and even then they had to nerf some cards. They nerfed Hunter's Mark twice. Used to cost 0. Used to cost just nothing. You just would point it at a thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was so insane.
It was silly.
I mean,
You would just
look at
unleash in Hunter's Mark.
look at a card like Shadowhoof Slayer against almost any classic and basic card. That card we would barely say is playable now, and I think it puts to shame a ton of cards in class. Like, you compare that card to a lot of cards in classic and basic, and it looks more similar to the classic cards of old before they had to nerf +1 attack on like
Leper Gnome and
6
Abusive
different
Sergeant.
cards.
Yeah.
Leper Gnome, Abusive Sergeant, Knife Juggler.
Yeah.
I thought there was like one more, but
Yeah, it's...
yeah.
The philosophy is clearly different. And part of it, I think, is just numbers. Part of it, you could make Demon Hunter not feel like it's good at everything by making it not good at everything. It's Spectral Sight could cost 3. Skull of Gul'dan could cost 7. Whatever. Consume Magic, 1 mana silence draw card. Like, that doesn't have to cost 1. These cards could cost more mana. They could do less damage. My feeling right now is that it is a combination of a bunch of things. That Demon Hunter was pushed out of the gate. People had a really bad first impression. It's still doing similar things because a class mechanic of damage. Damage is the best thing in Hearthstone, and it has been since the game was made. And when your class mechanic is the best thing in Hearthstone, it's damage and drawing cards. That's what wins you game of Hearthstone. You draw a bunch of cards and then you kill your opponent with them. So it's just a class designed around the ruthless efficiency of the best things to do in any game. All the cards are designed with modern philosophy instead of original philosophy in mind. They got extra cards every expansion, and people are kind of sick of it. And I don't blame them. A lot of green. They're seeing green all the time. And Demon Hunter needs to be bad at some point. And I don't know when that's going to be. I don't know if it's post-rotation, but reminding myself the Demon Hunter Initiate set is not going to be replaced when it rotates out. Thinking about Demon Hunter without Twin Slice, period, is already appealing. And without Twin Slice, without Blade Dance, without Mana Burn, without Consume Magic, without Altruis, it's going to be a very different animal, and I hope it's less efficient a little bit. Because any class that's based around a critical mass of damage, you need to make sure those numbers don't pile up too quickly. Because if they constantly push that too far and then have to nerf it, that indicates a core issue with class design.
Yeah, and like I said, it feels right now as though Warlock just using that hero power is too risky against Demon Hunter. And if you balance Warlock's healing around Demon Hunter existing, then its healing is probably too good against any other class. Because right now, the way to beat Demon Hunter is by throwing up taunts and healing. So, and that's, it still depends on which kind. As we mentioned, the aggro versions can be too low to the ground for pure paladin to make it. So,
it's it's taunts and healing followed by counter pressure. The counter pressure is really important, and that's the thing about Demon Hunter that's different. You have to be the one to take proactive measures to kill your opponent, because waiting them out doesn't work, and that's kind of what Botticus was talking about earlier. They have a lot of resources. They're going to get to them. They all convert into raw damage to your face. That means in order to keep them from killing you with them, you have to stop them. It's not that you have to wait them out. It's that you have to actively stop them by being the aggressor. And not every strategy is capable of doing that. So, especially with Il'gynoth now in Soul Demon Hunter, that deck can deal a lot of damage. A lot of damage if they set up for it. It's not the only class in Standard that can do it. But it's a bunch. And I have also heard the arguments that the hero power it warps the meta a little bit, just because it's so hard to develop early. I'm not against that argument, but I don't think that's it. Because as an aggressive hero power, 1 mana for 1 face damage, that doesn't hold up over the course of the game unless you have a lot of resources to go with it. It's good for board control.
Yeah.
So it's just a question of what kind of board control do we need, and it makes it an aggro deck that's good against other aggro decks, and that's kind of where we've run into trouble in the past, that you can't really go under any kind of Demon Hunter because they're an aggro deck that's good against other aggro. So I don't know exactly what the answer is there. I mean, I'm not a card designer. I enjoy playing the class, but recognize that it's out of balance right now, and also it has historically been out of balance. And so the reactions of players are kind of pretty easy to understand.
I wonder what it would be like if you just made every hero power cost 1. I wonder how it would warp things. Like if you made warrior gain 1 armor instead of gain 2 armor, priest healed 1 damage. The only one I don't know how you would balance would be warlock, obviously, because
well, anything that already gives
would
you
have
1
to-
of a thing is like, where do you go down? You can't draw half a card. You can't
Right.
ping for half a damage.
You could make
can't
Shaman
make
cost
a-
1. I don't think you're breaking much.
Yeah.
I mean,
well,
you would make it cost 1, and then all the totems would have to be like 0 ones, except for Searing Totem, and then that's still fine because that's the worst totem by a mile.
Yeah, I don't know how many hero powers need to be changed, because here's the thing. Any discussion about Demon Hunter, we lack reference for when it sucked, so we don't know what would make it bad because we never had it.
and also losing Twin Slice, I think, will change how we think about the strength of the hero power. It depends on what gets put in once we lose Twin Slice, but as it stands, they will just be worse at controlling the early board. So it may not be quite as easy for Demon Hunter to be like the anti-aggro deck. 2/1s, it does seem like, are going to be permanently not great against it. You're going to be more inclined to be playing things that are 2/2s or 1/3s, but right now, Twin Slice lets you take care of those stats as well.
I really wish for a while we could just play with Demon Hunter with a 2 mana hero power with +2 attack. Just 2 mana +2 attack. We'd probably complain that the damage is really high, but I have a feeling that it would just happen so much less often. Like the hero power would happen so much less often that we'd actually take less damage overall. I honestly think that would be the case. It would improve cards like Eldrachi Warblades, I guess. Like that card would get better, which I don't know that you necessarily want. But maybe it doesn't even get better just because you can't do it as often. I don't know. It's pretty weird. There's
I don't
like
really
a lot of
want
cards.
2 mana +2 attack feels scary to me. It's the reason that Steady Shot is good, the Hunter hero power is good, is because it turns into value of damage over time and it becomes hard to stop. I don't want Demon Hunter having more intrinsic value, like free value, when it already has so much card draw, because we're just depending on it being inefficient in mana expenditure in order to get the damage, right? And I don't think the DH will
Yeah,
ever
but
be
I
inefficient.
think that's the problem, is that they can do it so much more often. I would guess that if you added up the amount of times that somebody would use a 2 mana Demon Hunter hero power and compare it, like averaged it out and compared it to how often they use a 1 mana Demon Hunter hero power, I would guess the numbers would be ridiculously skewed to the 1 mana hero power. I would guess like it has to be way more than double. It'd probably be close to triple.
Maybe.
if not more.
Do you remember how hard it was to develop a board against odd rogue or odd mage, though? It was really hard to develop against them, and I don't want the early game to be defined by a hero power stopping all 2/2s. Like, that feels a little...
Yeah.
Because then you just
Yeah,
press
but
the button every
Rogue
turn,
got-
right?
Yeah, it would warp things in a different way.
Yeah.
But Rogue essentially got the same thing as the Demon Hunter hero power.
Odd Rogue?
Because they got... Yeah, because they got 2 uses out of it. So they got 4 damage for 2 mana. 4 damage for 2 mana.
Yeah, it was too good.
Yeah, just like 1 mana for 1 damage is too good, I think, because you can do it so much more often.
I don't want to
I
end
think
up...
it's a frequency issue more so than a...
Yeah.
That's my take on the situation, at least.
Yeah, I just don't want a situation as well where, like, a Demon Hunter's incentivized against any aggro deck is just hero power, hero power, hero power, and kill all their 2/2s. That also feels like it could get unpleasant. I don't know. I don't really know what the answer is.
Yeah, but like with Rogue, you would have a turn where you could dagger, and then a turn to develop, and then a turn to dagger, turn to develop. And with Mage, it was you spend 2 mana to not take that damage. Whereas with Demon Hunter, at least it would be every turn you have to spend the 2 mana. To if you're trying to do this against the aggressive decks, you have to spend the 2 mana, and it is going to deal you some amount of damage, which is a downside compared to both of the other situations. And also, those had a huge deck building restriction, whereas... So I guess it makes the Demon Hunter better because it doesn't have the huge deck building restriction.
I'd be curious to
think-
see it. Like, that. You're right, I'd be
Yeah.
curious to try it, because I have no idea what it would look like, and I see the
think it
argument
was
for...
tried.
Yeah. Well, I think they said that they didn't in testing.
Oh, really?
Well, remember that this version of the hero power was finalized in December. They were out of time. And I think that also means that changing it is not off the table, though they haven't said anything about changing it.
I mean, what's hard is that they
Yeah.
balanced cards around the 1 mana hero power to some extent.
If
Some
those
of them.
cards got worse, I would not be upset. If it's just like, oh gee, I guess I can't play Glavebound Adept.
Satyr Overseer. We're not even playing Satyr Overseer, and that's a hell of a card.
Yeah. Yeah. And Matt raises a good point. How good was Odd Druid? Now, Druid didn't have a lot of damage to hand, but it did have 2 mana kill a thing. Like, we don't know.
Yeah, it's really hard to compare that one just because...
There are 2
like,
classes that start
what-
with D? I don't know.
mean, well, no, it's hard to compare that just because you played Odd Rogue and Odd Mage because you had also really good odd costing cards for that. And you want to look at the odd cost Druid card, it was like a
Gloomstag.
5 mana 4/6 with Taunt. Yeah, which is barely above rate for a 5 mana card.
It was a
in general.
4/8. It was a 4/8.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. 2 more health. So it is above, because a 5 mana 4/6 was actually not above rate. And so it had to be a 4. You had to get 2 extra toughness on your 5 mana card.
I'll point out I did not know that from memory. I had to Google it because I have never seen a Gloomstag in play ever. Because why would you play Odd Druid? It was so bad. It was awful.
It's still in standard.
No. No, it really
Good.
isn't.
Wait, the Gloomstag?
Gloomstag is a 5 mana
No,
2/6
it
from the
wrote-
Witchwood.
Yeah, it
You're
wrote-
thinking of Crystal Stag, right?
Sorry,
Yeah.
Crystal Stags. Crystal Stag.
No,
Yeah.
Crystal Stag is almost a legitimate card.
It'd be
Almost.
really good in Priest.
Yup.
Also, they printed Faceless Corruptor, so whatever. You want 2 4/4 rushers for 5? That's not hard to come by. So, anyways, to summarize our feelings, this is a little feelings interlude because we were well under time, so we had to talk about our feelings. So that's what we do here on Coin Concede. Is that I think that the people that are feeling burnt out on Demon Hunter, I hear you, I appreciate you, I understand you. And we all do, because we all have different reasons for feeling the way bad that we do. And I like playing the class a lot. I really, really do. It's too good, it's tough. But also, the only year we've had Demon Hunter is the year where Demon Hunter has been a tier 1 deck the entire year. Hasn't always been the same deck. It's changed. Sometimes they had to nerf stuff to make it good, but they have. But if you're sick of getting attacked by Illidan, who could blame you? I don't blame you. but it is possible to beat it. But right now it's a little out of whack. We hope they change some stuff. And so we talked about aggro DH. There's another Demon Hunter deck that's also very good in the meta.
So that brings us to Soul Demon Hunter, which is mostly the same, but with some differences. There's a couple ways to build it once again. So you can still have militia, or you can not worry about that as much and just go with more face damage. Some lists are no longer running Wand Maker because why try and high roll the Twin Slice when you can just throw in a Relentless Assault, and it's not as efficient because it's not 1 mana, but you get your 4 damage. So and it's guaranteed. You'd potentially lose some of the chip damage of Wand Maker, so there's no argument one way or the other, but it does the same thing every time. So and then Penflinger. And Penflinger, I really think like maybe people should be making spots for it again. Some folks are running it from before, some folks are not because we've got other things going on. I think Il'gynoth can add a lot of damage, but something that Penflinger does if you're facing control warriors is it deals with Bulwark of Azzinoth, which that card can stop you right in your tracks. It will give you a real rough time. Usually the control warrior is going to be able to clear up your board because you don't have a lot of minions going on in the Soul Demon Hunter. And so having a weapon that absorbs 4 attacks, sometimes 5 if it came off Corsair Cache, is really tough to get through without Penflinger, and really inconsequential to get through with Penflinger. So that's definitely a big argument for running it. Obviously, the big standout card is Soul Shard Mystic. That is why you're favored against
Shard Shatter.
the aggro. Shard Shatter Mystic. That's why you're favored against the aggro Demon Hunters and other aggressive decks. It's just so efficient. If you can get your Soul Shear down, shuffle in, or the 1/3, getting those early souls and then Shard Shatter Mystic is just really rough to come back from, because they have to deal with the 3/2 body while they're developing. So that is your best tool against the aggressive decks. In terms of standout cards, I think for the slower games, Il'gynoth has been insane for damage potential. I was watching a Trolled In clip where No Hands was like, I feel like I'm pretty safe here, and then he died from 30 HP.
Yeah.
Because they had a single charge of Eldrachi Warblades equipped, and they played Il'gynoth and a whole bunch of damage spells. It's not unheard of to get up to 15 attack, and that's 30 with Il'gynoth in play and Eldrachi Warblades.
It takes some setup, right? Having played a bunch of Soul Demon Hunter and played against Soul Demon Hunter, it happens. It takes some setup, but as a late game power play, you aren't really safe against Demon Hunter at any health if they have time, if they have breathing room, which is why the counter pressure is so important, because if you give Soul Demon Hunter time, they kill you from 30. They skull and they Il'gynoth and they play a bunch of damage cards, and then you take 15, then you take 15 again, and then that's 30, and then you're dead. And you don't want that. Can't have that. So counter pressure pretty important. Really the soul shard, the soul fragment payoffs are pretty insane in Demon Hunter. Slappy, Soul Shard Lapidary, it's S, Lapidary, Slappy, I call it Slappy. It's the 5 mana 5/5 that gives you 5 attack when it eats a soul fragment. It's a very efficient card. Shard Shatter Mystic, very efficient card. And going just turn 4 Marrow Slicer, turn 5 Slappy is 13 damage. That's a lot.
Yep.
That's a lot of damage. Theoretically, the way to beat this deck is to taunt and heal and then counter pressure, which is why Paladin is so good against it, both pure and Libram. And that's probably the best way to counter just this version. Not as much against the aggro version, though Libram is pretty good against both. And of course, Skipper Armorsmith. But the standout cards for me in Soul Demon Hunter, I've been very impressed by Bladed Lady. It's pretty easy to activate, and then you get a free 6/6, and free 6/6s or 1 mana. It's pretty good. And well, Blade Dance
With
is
Rush.
yeah, with Rush, and Blade Dance is the most important card in the deck. And one of the bigger mistakes that I made when I first started playing this deck is using Blade Dance too early. It is your best clear. You only get 2 of them. Save it for a key moment. And sometimes that does mean using it early, but usually it means holding it as a later board clear. And it's really, really powerful and capable of pushing damage and clearing the board at the same time. Reminds me a lot of Oil Rogue's Blade Flurry, which was nerfed because, 2 mana to wipe the board and hit
boy,
face.
was it nerfed.
2 mana to wipe the board and hit face wasn't good enough, and then Demon Hunter
Is
kind
that
of gets
the
to do
most
that.
nerfed card of all time? It's
Uh,
got to be a tie between that and the charge minion, right?
I would
or
say
not.
the Rogue Quest is probably the winner there, which was nerfed, I believe, effectively 4 times.
Yeah, but wasn't it even almost still playable
You mean in terms of biggest
after the
change?
third time?
Biggest change in playability is what you're saying?
Biggest
I
change in
mean,
playability
I
would
don't
be
War
the
Song.
meme.
It'd be War Song.
War Song?
Yeah.
I think, I don't know. I would say it's a tie between War Song and Blade Flurry.
I mean, they're both pretty bad, but I took Blade Flurry off of Spell Lackey sometimes. Like,
True, and you would never take a War Song commander, I guess.
War Song is no. The best part of War Song is the meme that it created with the soul of the card. That's the best
Yeah,
thing.
I guess
about it.
that's the biggest drop in power level.
Well, because it was also nerfed twice in the original version, was just your minions half charge. So
Whoa.
it was very good with Molten
Yeah.
Giant and
Tundra
and
Rhino.
Youthful Brewmaster. You would just play
Tundra Rhino?
you would just play
Man.
Molten Giant, smash for 8, Ancient Brewmaster, smash for 3, smash for 8. So anyways,
Oh man, imagine if you could play Risky Skipper and old Warsong Commander.
yes, sure.
Oh man.
Imagine all sorts of things. We can imagine it.
Skipper, Warsong Commander, and then my
Patron.
Blade Be Thirsty or whatever we actually found out.
Frothing
the
Berserker.
Frothing.
Berserker. Whatever he
Yeah.
actually
Yes.
says.
Yeah,
Yes.
Patron Warrior would have been better with Risky Skipper, probably. Yeah.
No, I'm just saying now, if like you could do
Oh.
that in standard now, if you just
Yeah,
have
let's
Warsong
not
Commander.
think about that.
So anyways, Mulligans
Oh,
and
and
Soul
then you
Demon
could
Hunter.
copy it with Bloodsworn Mercenary. Oh, so much damage.
I'm gonna do the show. Can I do the show? You good? Thank you, Bodies. So we're gonna do the show. So Mulligans for Soul Demon Hunter. So keep in mind, you don't always want to play Spirit Jailer on 1. In some matchups, I'm gonna say against Priest specifically, you actually mulligan Spirit Jailer. Because drawing your soul fragments too early is bad. You really want to make sure they're in the deck for Militia. If you don't want the passive healing, then you don't keep the Spirit Jailer. A lot of the times in this meta, you really want the board presence. You keep it most of the time. You're going to mulligan for your low-cost cards. Spirit Jailer, Mana Feeder Panthara. If you have Wand Maker and list Wand Maker. If your opponent is not a warrior, you keep Soul Shear. If they are a warrior, you do not keep Soul Shear. If you're against the Mirror, you keep Warblades, because Eldrachi Warblades is the most important card in the Mirror, and really against any Demon Hunter. And then, if you're in a slower matchup, usually warrior, you keep Skull. It's weird, but you do it. Advice? Thoughts?
I mean, I like against slower things keeping Marrow Slicer, because that's going to be the best feeling shuffle souls in. So if you can do that curve Marrow Slicer into Lapidary, that feels pretty solid. Like you mentioned, that's already 13 damage. Yeah, it's really become, if you're not running the Wand Makers, we're still going to run the Pantharas, and that's your best turn 3. But you don't have a lot of chip damage anymore. It's really just anything you can direct at the face, you probably should. You kill things to give you more time to fit in the more damage. It's Face Hunter rules, but with more control tools.
Yeah, it's amazing how the deck has evolved into actually just firing burn spells at the face. Yeah. There's going to be some trading that you have to do sometimes, and you'll generally know when it really stands out. Most of the time, you just want to pressure your opponent and then clear stuff without having to give up the damage. Like, if you have to use your Twin Slices for Blade Dance and then still trade into something, then you're probably losing that game. Because your damage is finite. You have a lot of it, but it's not infinite. And the more efficient you are at connecting the damage to face, the shorter the game is, and the shorter the game is, the happier you are. It is the most impatient control deck of all time. It is technically a control deck, but it just goes face all the time, starting from turn 2 if you let it. And it just wants to hit you in the face, and then it will clear your stuff if you put it in the way if they have to. So the goal is, make them have to clear your stuff. There are actually times where I've won as aggro Demon Hunter just by going so quickly when they don't have Shard Shatter. You just pressure, and it's definitely the way to go. Surprisingly.
Number one thing to keep track of as the aggro Demon Hunter is, have they shuffled souls in? Because if they haven't, you're not going to get hit with that Shard Shatter Mystic. And that's the main like backbreaking thing to get hit with. And there's been matches where it's just like, well, they don't have the mana to both shuffle souls in and soul shard, so we're just going to keep piling it on, and you win more games when you do that.
Yeah, and I will say I think that Militia is pretty important in the deck. I've seen some people cutting it. I've lost a lot of games when my Soul Demon Hunter opponent, I'm not even at a low life total, but my Soul Demon Hunter opponent just plays a Militia on 7 for 5 3/3s or whatever. And I just don't have an answer to that. It's an army in a box. Yep. And it not only cleans up the board, it's not just a removal tool, it's just a lot of power very, very quickly. And I wouldn't recommend cutting it. There are some matchups where after they have some kind of clear, or when there's some kind of parity, you just slam it and you just win with all those things connecting face. It's been very powerful against me quite often.
And honestly, there are times where you clear up all the rushes, but the 5/5 sticks, and that's just enough.
Just 5 damage and a board clear. Yeah. So I don't know. It's there's going to be a good bit of Demon Hunter on the climb. I've seen a lot more aggro lately than Soul. I think that people are targeting Soul a little bit more effectively than targeting aggro, from what I can see. Just because I don't think aggro has a lot of great counters, and people still want to try stuff. And most of the greedy stuff that people are trying is what dies to aggro, and doesn't necessarily die to Soul. Like, for example, I think Evolve Shaman is a lot better against Soul Demon Hunter than it is against aggro Demon Hunter, because aggro, they just hit you before you get set up. And Soul, they often can't deal with a board of giant crow stuff. Yeah, Bodikus, you played that matchup, right?
Yeah, what happens is, I felt when I was talking earlier when you were commenting about Evolve Shaman and I was talking about consistency, I felt like I was consistently able to make boards in succession, and that was very successful against Soul Demon Hunter, because they're usually pretty good at removing the first 2 boards. But with Evolve Shaman, it feels like you get a good solid 4 to 5 turns of just deal with this evolved board. Okay, you did. Deal with this evolved board. Okay, you did. Deal with this evolved board. Oh, by the way, you're at 15 or whatever, because you're also taking 4 from my weapon every turn, and then that's usually where they stop being able to deal with it. And then sometimes you'll just get random evolves that kind of outscale whatever their removal is.
When you hit Colossus of the Moon? Colossus of the Moon? Yeah.
Yeah, that one, I'm just more talking about like the 4 and 5 drops that have 7 toughness for no reason.
Oh,
Those ones are generally pretty good to hit, because then the Demon Hunter kills 2 of your things and you have an extra minion stick around, which evolves again the next turn, and it gets out of hand when they can remove some of your board but not all of your board.
Yeah. Yep. And I found also in my experience in that matchup, it's not the first Knuckles that they have trouble with, it's the Horde Pillager Knuckles. The Horde Pillager Knuckles turn is kind of devastating, because that usually goes with a Pitmaster. And so when you go Horde Pillager Pitmaster smash you, that's difficult. Yeah. I like Evolve Shaman. I like that deck.
Me too. Even though sometimes you whiff.
I mean, that's our stuff.
Happens with every deck.
Edelweiss, any final words on our friends Illidan and Arana?
Yeah, if you want to beat these decks, play Warrior. I was playing the Cthulhu Warrior of my teammate that I mentioned earlier, and it feels kind of inconsequential sometimes. Minefield is insane against aggro.
Card's very good.
I mean, we played the mech back in Boomsday that was 5 mana for the same effect, and you got a 3/4 mech with it. Minefield, 2 mana, 5 damage to, randomly distributed amongst all minions. It's a really good early clear for a control deck.
Yep. Feels somewhere between Warpath and an early Defile, and those are good places to be. Good comparisons.
Yep.
And you don't want Minefield against Evolve Shaman necessarily, but you do want it against any kind of aggro deck. Really good against Phase Stalker. Really good against Rogue minions. Except Edwin, he doesn't count. He's special. Yeah. And that's going to do it for Decksplanations, which means we're going to wind down this episode. We have many folks to like to thank. Check out our thanks section on the website at Concede.com. You can find our contact info, our show notes, and our Patreon information. You can monetarily support our show at patreon.com/CoinConcede. Join us every week by following us live on Twitch at twitch.coinconcede.com. Join our community chats in our Discord at discord.coinconcede.com. Run into our email at coinconcede@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at CoinConcede. Like, share, and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/CoinConcede. If you'd like some CC swag, head over to our shop at shop.coinconcede.com. Big thanks to our producers Number 3, Tenor Wizard, Tony S, Doge Karhu, Pug Ugly, and Proby Wan. CoinConcedes. Well, first, Wicked Good gave us a sweet raid. Madras Lover gave us a sub. Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it. Edelweiss, who are your CoinConcedes?
So my CoinConcedes are to my teammates, Molestar and 2-star Mako. Molestar hit rank 1 legend. It was just like the first to get there on NA with that Cthulhu control warrior. And then Mako tried it and also hit a very early legend, came in somewhere around like 267 or something. So very impressive. I've got a much later start and kind of easing into it, but the deck is feeling really good. And yeah, Ironbeak Owl is for Rattlegore. That's what it's there for if you want to pick up the list.
Some lists are playing Silas instead. Take the Rattlegore.
But then they
Man.
can take it back.
I got silenced by a paladin earlier, and it was so brutal.
Yep.
That card's really brutal because they took my Ysera, and it was sad.
Wow. That's 2020.
Hero power Silas in Paladin is pretty powerful.
Oh, how was your 1/1? Did you like it? Did you like your 1/1?
No, I wanted my 4/12 back.
No. Sorry, you can't have it. Who would you like to coin concede to, though?
I would like to coin concede to Wash in the Wind, who invited me to a Battlegrounds lobby just before the show, and unfortunately I had to decline because had to come on and do the show. But I appreciate the invite, and hopefully I'll be able to do one of those in the somewhat near future, even though I'm going to be quite busy with Path of Exile leagues for the next couple weeks.
Word. I would like to coin concede to Edelweiss. Because on the bonus episode that's coming out later today, after the show, some of Edelweiss's co-hosts needed a little pep talk, and I appreciate the newest member of the team also being a stabilizing influence and providing some much needed perspective. So Edelweiss, coin concede to you.
Seconded.
I appreciate that.
Of course, I appreciate the pep talk, and we didn't record that episode live, and so we nudged a little bit. So yeah, thank you for the suggestions. They were good. So until next week, keep calm and control your vengeance. It's gonna be okay. And if you see us on ladder, wait, you wrote something. What'd you write? You wrote something.
Oh, well, I had one more coin concede
go
that
ahead.
I forgot.
Okay.
Well, my brother was in the chat today, so coin
Oh.
concede to my brother.
Coin concede to Edelbro. Thank you, Edelbro. So keep calm, contain your vengeance, and if you see us on ladder, coin concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.
All right. Thanks for coming, everyone. We'll see you later.